Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Golden Girl. We have another new setting for today because this is my new house that I moved into. I was Airbnb hopping before the last episode I recorded from one of my Airbnbs. And since then, a lot of amazing life changes have happened. And I'll talk about that in another episode. But I'm really excited to be here in this new space. And it's been super fun so far. And a lot of why it all happened is because I decided to surrender to the universe. So that is why we're in this new setting. And the purpose of today's episode is going to be to talk to Madeline about her decision to end her 6-year relationship and what that's been like. And we're going to hear about how Madeline's getting ready to go to a silent retreat. And before we dive into all of that, I want to just remind everybody, if you haven't been listening to the previous episodes, Madeline's on her own journey of feeling her feelings and recognizing different feelings in her body and different emotions. She's talked about that during previous episodes. And she also just started a new podcast. It's called Musings with Mile Marker. And it's so cute. I highly recommend that you listen to it. Madeline hiked from Mexico to Utah in one go and did voice recordings along the way. And she's now taking those recordings from that hiking trip and speaking about what's going on in her life right now and adding commentary to tie it all together. It's really beautiful, really moving, and so adorable and very Madeline. So definitely check that out. From here, the reason that I wanted to bring Madeline on the podcast to talk about this is because the purpose of this podcast is to help people feel like they're not alone and to talk about things that are really vulnerable that a lot of people just don't typically talk about. I think it's really important to have these conversations about difficult circumstances that you've navigated. And I think that what you've done has required a lot of bravery and courage, and it's hard. A lot of other people who are in long-term relationships have probably found themselves in the position that you found yourself in, and maybe they feel like there are no options. And so I just think it's very important to have conversations like this and just hear about your thought process and what made sense for you.
Great. I'm ready. I'll start with a little bit of background. My 2025 New Year's resolution was to learn how to listen to my body. This has been the overarching inspiration for how I'm approaching my life this year. Really, this has just been a 2025 goal. And part of this came from working with this new health practitioner that you work with and making sure that my physical body is well, but then also understanding, what does my soul want? What does my mind want? And leaving the relationship is really just a piece of this puzzle. But I think the thing about talking about it is the reason why sometimes people don't talk about things that are hard is because they don't know how. They literally don't know how. Sometimes there aren't words to describe how you're feeling. And sometimes you don't have the time or the people around you that are there when you need them to have these conversations. And that's part of the reason why I am so grateful for the time that we talk together, because we really are candid with each other, because it feels super natural. It's no big deal for me to tell you these things or experience these really intense feelings around you. It's just comfortable. And if people don't have the space to experience that, it doesn't happen. And so that's why I'm really fortunate for everything that's unfolded up until now, because maybe up until this time, I wouldn't have understood it. The way that things have unfolded really feels like it was meant to happen now, because I'm ready to handle it now and I'm equipped to handle it now. And I'm just seeing how things unfold. So now we can go into some questions.
Okay, that's such a beautiful way of putting it. I think it will help set the stage if you tell us a little bit about the relationship.
Sure. So my relationship with Nick, he's my first boyfriend ever. So when I think about people that I've been interested in the past, oftentimes I was interested in people that weren't interested in me back. And that is never a good feeling like you're kind of chasing someone that just isn't giving you the time of day. And interestingly enough, the day that I met Nick, it was at an event at Austin Bouldering Project, which is a local rock climbing gym that I've been going to for years. And it's a place that I'm very comfortable and able to be my full self, which is it's nice to meet people when you're at a place where you feel comfortable being your full self. I was actually introduced to him from my friend, and jokingly, I said, "So, what's Nick like? Is he a cool guy?" And she said something along the lines of, "Oh, don't worry about him. You shouldn't pursue him," kind of cautioning me. And it was in jest, but it was definitely a little bit of cautioning, and I just thought, "Oh, okay, whatever, friends are gonna just caution you against boys, whatnot." So, we started spending time together, and we went from kind of barely knowing each other to being in a committed relationship in a very short amount of time. And I think that was something that I wasn't prepared for, because I kind of got swept up in the honeymoon phase, but I wasn't setting boundaries right away, which was bad. We both grew as people a lot. 6 years from, in my case, the age of 25 to 31, we had a really good time together. But he has a strong personality, and I consider myself someone also with a strong personality, but even the dynamic from the very beginning was I am the smaller person. I felt like I was the smaller person between the two of us.
Did you notice that from the beginning?
Yes. Because when you dream of a partner, when you dream of a boyfriend that doesn't exist, who I envisioned was sort of a calm, quiet, gentle, demure man that was sensitive and was kind of the less energetic side of me. However, Nick was very energetic. Nick made me seem like the unenergetic side to the relationship, which was a dynamic that I didn't anticipate. I'm not saying that it was good or bad, but I think that it overwhelmed me in ways that I didn't understand. And especially when you live with someone, you just get used to your day-to-day life. And our day-to-day life was good. It didn't feel like intensely that we didn't really have fights. He was always a good person to me. But when you get into a phase of being comfortable, you don't recognize things that are also bad, or things that are just, I want to use a phrase like not true to yourself, because things don't have to be bad for them to seem like they're not serving you. And I don't know in what ways the relationship wasn't serving me, but what I do know is that I want to be spending time on my own, because I want to feel undistracted. I want to feel like I am in control of my surroundings and my settings, and control is still such a loose term because we're not in control of anything. I mean, you've seen how your life has transformed over the past few weeks. It's dramatic, but I'm trying to really become undistracted so that I know what is right for me now, rather than just kind of going along with this flow and inertia of a relationship without knowing, is this inertia pushing me in the correct direction or in a direction that's not the path I want to be on?
Can I challenge you on something?
Sure.
You say that you don't know what ways the relationship wasn't serving you.
Mhm.
I think you do, though. And if you do, would you be comfortable trying to think of what those might be?
I'm gonna back up and say, you and I had spent time together. I kind of came to this whirlwind realization that I needed a break from my relationship. And I subsequently talked to a few people about it, saying, "Hey, I think I'm gonna separate from my boyfriend. I want to talk about these things that I learned recently,
Okay.
and then use them to frame how I'm reflecting back."
Okay.
Okay. Here are 3 tidbits of wisdom that I've recently learned, and these are what I'm going to use as a benchmark. One piece of advice my friend Rachel gave me was, you shouldn't have to make excuses for your partner. I don't want to go into that because there's a lot we can talk about what making excuses looks like. But that's step 1, is you shouldn't feel compelled to make excuses for your partner's behavior. Okay.
It's really good advice.
It is really good advice. And it's something that people immediately react to. Am I making excuses or not? It's pretty visceral, which I appreciate because I want questions that are evoking a strong gut reaction rather than having me like hem and haw if this is something that I relate to or not.
Right, because you're just learning how to
Feel it.
Mhm.
The other one was that love, in a lot of ways, should be unconditional. You want to love someone even with their flaws. There are ways to love people for who they are, as they are, unconditionally. And even if you think about a pet, like if I think about the way that our dog or Nick's dog loved him, it was purely unconditional. And I believe that we have the ability to love humans unconditionally too. So I know that I was giving my love to the versions of him that I liked, but I was holding back my love from the versions of him that I didn't. And that's not how I wanted to live my life. So that's step 2, which is unconditional love. And step 3 is when I talk to my mom actually about relationships that are strong, or even an example between her and my dad, is that from my mom's perspective is that he puts me first. My dad puts my mom first. And being in a relationship, you want to feel like you're put first. Your feelings are put first. And just for this example, it's that me as the female or woman in the relationship feels like I'm being prioritized over the man, or that the man is able to put me first. This is just the background that I want to lay. Okay.
What would you call those 3 things? What are you referring to them as?
Inspiration.
Inspiration.
New energy. Like, those are kind of my new philosophies for how I should be approaching love for the future.
In your relationship.
Yes.
Like for a future relationship, those
Yes.
are the 3 things. So the first one being don't make excuses. The second one being unconditional love. The third one being that your partner should be putting you first.
Yes. And then this is what I want to relate to the how I knew that things were going poorly. And this is surrounding why we started therapy. This is like kind of when I was feeling, in 2022, I was having a really hard time in the relationship.
Okay, so let's go there.
Okay.
There was a day that I ran into you at the airport in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
We just happened to run into each other. And then it turned out we were on the same flight,
Yeah.
sitting next to each other on this flight, and we're neighbors. So Nick picked us up from the airport and drove me home. But because I was on my way home from my sister's wedding, we were talking about love and relationships. And we talked a little bit about you and Nick. And you had brought up things that you were concerned about. This was in 2022.
Yeah.
And those concerns that you brought up to me, I don't remember what they were. Maybe you can tell us. But I remember that I was like, dude,
These are big concerns.
like, these are big concerns. These are things that you need to figure out. And I don't think he's the right person for you. I think you guys should consider breaking up.
Yeah.
And I told you that. I didn't say it lightly. That's a big thing to say.
Yeah.
And when we talked again about it, you told me that you guys had started to do couples therapy instead. And I was so supportive of that. I was no longer telling you that you should break up with Nick because all I wanted was for you to be putting really good, conscious thought into your relationship. I wanted to make sure that you were in the relationship because you were deciding to be and because it made sense for you.
Yeah.
Not because you felt like it was just easier to stay.
Yeah.
And so in signing up for couples therapy, that was exactly what you were doing. You were choosing to invest in the relationship. And that is all I wanted for you, was to make sure that you were making a conscious choice to stay.
I'm going to just talk a lot and you can decide what's relevant. So in 2022, April, we went on a group vacation to Puerto Rico with our mutual friends. I was closer to these people than Nick was, but he still knew at least some of them well. And I am an extrovert. I like being around people all the time. I enjoy people's company, and going on a group vacation with these people, some who I'd never traveled with, was fun. Was something that I was willing and excited about partaking in. Without putting words in his mouth, I think the trip was deeply uncomfortable for him. He wasn't involved in the planning, and because of that, we didn't individually have autonomy over the schedule. The schedule was based on what had been pre-planned by my friend who'd been coordinating it. And there were moments when I felt so bad for the way he was behaving.
What do you mean felt bad?
He wanted to go on a run in the morning, which was fine. But then by the time he came back, we had to pack up and leave. And he didn't really have time to eat breakfast. And so He felt like we were all rushing and he wasn't being prioritized his being able to eat, and he was really cranky.
I just want you to describe when you say you felt bad about his behavior,
He
describe that more, your feelings. Elaborate on what
I
feeling bad means.
I was uncomfortable by him being angry and being frustrated by our agenda. His frustration with our agenda made me feel responsible. I felt responsible for his well-being and the way he reacted in our group vacation, which, even as I say that, seems illogical. Like, I recognize that Madeline is not responsible for Nick's behavior, but I felt it. I felt like the way he acted was a reflection of me and was a reflection of our relationship. And my inability to control his behavior was a poor reflection on me as an individual. And it made me deeply uncomfortable. I felt discomfort is just the word I would describe. Like uneasy and disappointed, and like I our participation was disrupting our friend group, our trip as a whole, but me feeling uncomfortable on this trip was the impetus for us going to therapy, because I understood Nick's behavior in this setting is not within my control, but I need to work through why I'm feeling this way with a professional. So it took us from April until October. We didn't start seeing Jamie until October, which I would say those 6 months were strenuous. We were not evolving as people during this time. Like, I spent the month of August in Chicago, the whole month of August in Chicago, because I had different things going on. So I thought I'm just going to spend the whole month there instead of flying back and forth from Austin. And I felt very estranged from him at that time, emotionally estranged. I'm here with my parents and my family, and I just don't feel connected to him at all. I don't even really miss him. So once we started going to therapy, I learned a lot. And I am really grateful that we spent that time in therapy, because even though the relationship has come to a close now, I learned a lot. We both learned a lot about communication and understanding each other's like fight or flight mechanisms, because when I am in a position that is challenging my nervous system, my instinct is to freeze. I'm a flighter. If I'm like feeling threatened, I just want to like physically become smaller. I want to physically back up. I want to distance myself from what's going on.
I'm the same way.
And he's a fighter. When he is feeling upset or triggered or at risk, he wants to fight. He wants to be big and loud and dominate. And when you don't understand that someone's reaction, it's really unsettling. If we're in this situation and my instinct is to become small and be back up, and his instinct is to become larger and more aggressive, frankly, like, that was not something I knew how to deal with.
Well, and that's not going to be an effective way to resolve conflict. Whatever caused the dysregulation, having those two responses together is not going to lead to a good resolution.
No. And by working with Jamie
Jamie
was our counselor, our couples counselor, and we went to her more or less every 2 to 3 weeks for a year. Other than learning how to communicate, the thing that we uncovered is that he really is deeply an introvert, and I really am deeply an extrovert. And being around a lot of people, especially people he doesn't know well, is not comfortable for him. And when he's not comfortable, he acts aggressive. So for me, until she said it out loud, I couldn't understand why this was his behavior. But then talking through it with her, I'm like, oh, he's just feeling scared. And when he's scared, this is the reaction. So then I was able to internalize it better. And even just talking through this with you, it makes me feel like I'm just like trying to rationalize. I'm trying to think it through, because I am still so in this like cerebral phase. Like, I wish I could know how to feel these things, but I still am just like logically working through all this stuff.
Do you want to try to feel it now? Do you want to see if we can? Because you've also met with a somatic
Yeah.
coach to try to feel these things? What
And
has
it's
that coach guided you through?
so the somatic coach, I've met with her twice.
Has she given you guidance for what to do when you want to try to feel something instead of rationalize it?
Yeah, I mean, it's do a bot like your typical body scan. And a body scan is just to kind of sit in an undisturbed place and think about what sensations you're feeling in your body. And for me, they're really faint. There's just the voice is so quiet still.
Well, let me just also say that as you're reflecting on your relationship and the things that you learned in couples therapy, I think it's fair to explain that rather than feel it. I
Okay.
think when maybe if you're talking about the ending of the relationship and what that meant for you and how that felt, maybe that's where we can explore feelings more. But when you're just talking about the things that
Okay.
you've learned from
Sure.
therapy, I think that makes sense
Okay.
if you're just explaining that.
Yeah, that thank you for that clarification. I really did learn a lot from this couples therapy, and I'm trying to come up with the things that felt the most useful.
I think we could maybe explore that on another
Okay.
episode because for today, I want to really explore what it took for you to end the relationship because that's the part that's fresh.
Okay.
And I think that's also the part that required the most bravery and the part that so many people are afraid to do.
Okay. Here, I know how to start this story too. So, we went to Arizona in late February for a race, a trail race. And
Both of you were running?
both of us were running. I ran the 30-kilometer distance and he ran the 50-kilometer distance. And while we were there, we met this hiker, and his name is Geodude. And Geodude,
Wait, can I pause? For
yeah,
those of you who don't know, people who go hiking have these hiker names. I only know this because I listen to your
thank
podcast.
you.
And so his name isn't Geodude. This is his hiker name.
Yeah. So hiker Geodude.
I know exactly one thing about hiking,
Yes.
and it's that thing.
And I'll say this too, not all hikers have hiker names, but
Okay.
if they do, they like to use them. So
Okay.
he was embarking on this huge hiking feat, and we met him early on.
Okay.
He is trying to hike all the way around the Western United States in one calendar year. And he's 23 and he studied geology. And this guy was just so excited about life. And the funny thing was he was unwell also while he was in Superior because he had drank water from the Gila River, which he thought was contaminated. And so he was sick. He was like literally throwing up in the other room and taking a couple days off trail. But his spirit was so strong. He was just like, I could feel like the light of this person, even in his unwell days, like really strongly. And I was thinking, like, this is the light that I'm looking for myself. And I see it from this young kid. Like, he was very inspiring. And I'm glad we met him there because even though this race for me felt pretty horrible and it was not a great day for me, meeting him was really special. So after we meet, we go our separate ways. Nick flies to Mexico for a boys' trip, and I fly to San Diego for a solar conference. While I'm in San Diego, I woke up in the middle of the night with vivid thoughts. And normally, when I wake up in the middle of the night with vivid thoughts, I notice them and then I wake up in the morning and I push them aside. Today, I decided not to do that. I thought about these vivid thoughts. And then when I woke up in the morning, I was like, okay, these vivid thoughts are here. I'm not going to push them away today. And I'll tell you what they were. The first one was you really need to start heavily reconsidering your relationship. And the other one was to start a podcast. And I truly would normally just think, okay, subconscious, like whatever, you're having these ideas, but you're just going to go and live your life the way that you have been living it all the time. But because this is this time that I'm trying to tap into these places that I'm not normally listening to, I'm listening to those. I really decided to listen to those two thoughts.
And do you remember telling me that you had those thoughts and what I said?
No.
Oh, okay. This whole time I felt like I was a huge part of this because
Tell me what you said.
well, this is when we were on our walk after we recorded the MCAS episode.
Oh, okay.
We were on our walk to let out Bentley.
Yeah.
Madeline and Nick's dog. And you were like, yeah, well, I've been having these really vivid thoughts in the middle of the night and they're probably nothing. And because I know that you're really working on getting in tune with your intuition and trying to feel your feelings, I was like, if you're feeling something or hearing something in the middle of the night, that's when your consciousness is at a different level.
Yeah.
That's when you're going to be a lot more in tune and in touch with your subconscious and
Yeah.
what your body's trying to tell you, what your intuition is trying to tell you. So I was like, what were those thoughts? Because whatever it is, that's your intuition and
Yeah.
you should listen to them.
Yeah.
And then you were like, well, one of them was that I should start a podcast and the other was that I need to break up with Nick.
Yeah.
When we were on that walk,
Mhm.
I was so caught off guard when you said that you needed to break up
cry?
with Nick. No, when you said you needed to break up with
Oh.
Nick, I was so shocked because I hadn't heard anything about
Yeah.
your relationship or any issues with it since 2022.
Okay.
So I was really surprised, and I had asked you things like, well, why do you think that is? And you shared some things with me that I found very concerning,
Mhm.
but you just didn't know what was normal.
Mhm. I definitely think we can dive into this. And I think we actually have different opinions about this, which I think is helpful.
Okay.
So I approached my relationship from a place of comfort and, frankly, complacency. I was not feeling vibrant. I was just feeling like really routine and really going through the motions of my life. And when I was talking to you in your backyard, and I was really emotional during that time, you had said to me, like, I, Becca, for myself, want this deeply strong love story. I want the love to be like overflowing. And when I thought about that for myself, my initial reaction is that's not real. That's not realistic. Like, I don't think that overflowing, gushing, just over the top love is attainable. That was my initial thought, is like, how can you strive for this? How can you set this standard of overflowing love for yourself when it's unattainable or such a small percentage of the ability to achieve it? That was my reaction. And I also agree that my state of complacency was not ideal. This was not the frequency I wanted to be operating on. It just was what I had become accustomed to. So while I do believe that a feeling of more love is possible for me, my goal was definitely not this endless love. And I'm almost curious, how you feel such conviction that that's possible for you, because to me, that is just the fairy tale of all fairy tales, but not something that I even desire potentially.
I feel innately in my soul, I know that deep love is possible. And I think I know it because I've felt deep love and connection with someone. And I know what it feels like to be loved and to love deeply. And I have an innate desire to pour my entire heart into everything that I do. That also means that I want to fully connect with whoever I'm connecting with. I think we both know I'm a very all or nothing kind of a person, but
Yeah.
when it comes to love, I know that it's possible to love so deeply and to feel so secure in that love and to trust each other completely and to be able to work through disagreements effectively and to support each other and lift each other up and just feel like you can completely trust in this other person and trust that they love you deeply, that they'll put you first, and
yeah.
that I just, even just in the 2 relationships that I've had, in both of those relationships, both parties, me and the other person, we loved deeply and we gave it our all and we allowed ourselves to just really fall for each other. But we did so in such a loving and supportive way that I know that it's possible for me to experience that again. And because I know that that's possible for me, I'm not actively pursuing that because right now I'm
Working on
very much
yourself.
working on myself, but I'm always open to it. I try to keep an open heart all the time because I just think love is so beautiful. And the love that I've experienced in my relationships has been so pure and it makes everything in my whole life more beautiful and better and brighter and fuller. And it doesn't mean that I have to dedicate my life to the relationship. It gives me the strength and security to go pursue other things that I want to do in my life. It gives me more bravery it allows me to believe in myself that much more to go and tackle whatever it is that I wanna do when I have a partner who loves me unconditionally
Mhm.
and helps remind me of all the things that I already know about myself. That's what I want for myself. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily what you want for yourself, but I do know that that exists for me, so that's how I believe it.
It makes me feel sad for everyone who knows that they're I don't wanna use this word, but I don't know what else to use, is settling. People settle all the time, and that really feels like the commonplace, typical story is that maybe there was deep love once, but there isn't that today, and settling is okay. Right now, I'm deciding today, I don't wanna settle right now, and I also already can tell, like, maybe settling is okay in the future, and I don't wanna feel like that's what's coming from me, but that is the way I feel now still, is that settling is inevitable, and I don't know why that feels like my initial reaction, but I imagine that a lot of people relate to this, that even if I don't settle now, I will settle later, and that it's always about trying to change the other person. That's another thing. I don't wanna feel like I want to change my partner, and I don't wanna feel like my partner wants to change me, but how do we connect with people and still meet them halfway? Like, I still think I don't understand this yet. I don't know how to do that.
I don't think it's about meeting halfway. When I envision what my future partner and this love that I know is possible, it's not about meeting each other halfway. It's about loving someone fully for who they are. Because I know what it feels like to be loved fully for everything that I am.
But what if it's at odds with their own self? Is that not
Then it's not right. Like, it
okay?
shouldn't be. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people settle. I am never going to settle. I will never settle. I won't. I'm really glad that I won't. But a lot of people will. And that's their choice. If you're going to settle, then it is up to you what you do with your relationship. And I'm talking about people in general, not you
Yeah.
specifically. Because with you specifically, I'm not going to let you settle. But I do think it is possible for you to not settle, and I don't think that you're gonna want to change your partner if you find the right partner, but I also think it's important to ask yourself questions about why. Why do you feel like it's inevitable that you're gonna settle, and why do you feel like you're anticipating already wanting to change your partner that doesn't exist yet?
I think for me specifically, it's
Mhm.
because I don't have a lot of experience in this realm of my life. Like, I have a lot of friends. Always had a lot of friends, but romantic love and, like, deep romantic connection is something that has not been in the forefront of my life for a long time. And because of that, it's not even something that I've practiced. Like, I think that, frankly, even learning how to love yourself and others is a skill. And my parents showed each other love, but I don't necessarily know if just growing up with that has taught me what it means for me to love other people in that way. I still feel like I don't know. And if other people are listening and thinking, maybe I don't really know how to love deeply either, what advice would you give us?
I think it really depends on the person, but I liked how you mentioned that maybe you don't know how to love yourself. Where would you begin with loving yourself? If you're going to be embarking on a journey of figuring out how to love, you should always start with yourself because you're going to have a really hard time establishing secure love in a relationship if you don't love yourself. Any healthy relationship needs to be built on a foundation of each person loving themselves. And everybody has blind spots. Everybody has stuff that they're working on. Everyone can always improve on their self love journey. I'm not saying people have to be perfect to be in a relationship together, but I do think you have to learn to love yourself before you're really going to be able to healthily love someone else. And maybe I'll change my mind about that one day, but I do think that you should start with yourself.
I historically used to think, like, the phrase, like, "love yourself first" was really trite. The reason why I used to not relate to that is because I would say, "Oh, I do. I love myself." But what does that really look like? If we peel back a couple layers, especially based on the phone call you and I had a couple of days ago, I have some blind spots on loving myself and accepting myself, and I only am really realizing that right now. Because when I think of loving myself, I thought that I did, though. And it's only until now that I'm well, even no, these were even points of contention in my relationship that I don't think were contentious. They were me problems, not relationship problems. And I didn't realize that until now, being
Okay.
single.
Okay. What were those you problems that you now have recognized?
Not asking for help for things that you can ask for help for. I mean, even having someone clean your house is something as an adult I've never done regularly. But I still don't deep clean the house to the level that I desire, and I have this aversion to it.
Aversion to cleaning the house or aversion to hiring somebody?
Hiring somebody.
Right. Can I just like recap what we had talked
Yeah.
about the other night?
Because I think
We
this is relevant to my self-love journey because this bled into the relationship.
Yeah, okay. So it's interesting that you say it bled into the relationship. When we talked the other night, correct me if I paraphrase wrong, we uncovered the fact that you had been judging yourself for having to pay for a service that you were capable of doing yourself. Whatever that service may be, whether it's cleaning your house, ripping up your back deck, preparing your meals, these are all things that you're completely capable of. So you would basically make yourself do those things.
And feel guilt.
You would feel guilt if you considered hiring somebody to do those things for you. And I was asking you why that was, and we talked about your upbringing and how it was instilled in you basically to not waste money. And although your parents hadn't had a problem hiring people when they needed help, you still took away that money should not be wasted. And because you're a very capable person, it seems that translated into the fact that you feel guilty if you aren't doing all of the things yourself.
Mhm.
And you would feel guilty hiring someone to take on some of that workload because you're fully capable of it.
Mhm.
Did I paraphrase that
Yeah.
correctly?
And this was something we talked about in therapy. This specific thing. Like
Mm.
the mental load of household chores
Mm.
was an issue because I felt burdened by this constantly.
Was Nick contributing to the workload? Was he taking care of things as much as you were?
The way that he thought was necessary, yes. Like, I think the mental load of the work of chores is really dependent on each person. Like, I felt burdened by these chores, but he didn't feel burdened by them because he has a different relationship with these things than I do.
So why did you feel burdened?
Because I feel guilty if I don't do it myself, which then made me feel like he should be doing them. He should feel the same amount of, not guilt, but accountability towards these things that really are mostly affecting me.
It sounds like Nick doesn't have that same guilt.
No, he doesn't. But it's not in a bad way. I think I was assuming he should feel this guilt too. I
Mhm.
was assuming if I can't get this stuff done, he needs to be involved with my burden.
Yeah.
And I see now that's not true.
It's not true, and my perspective of what I was saying that you don't have to be perfect to be in a relationship. Now that you know this about yourself, it does not mean that you have to resolve this issue that you have with feeling guilt over that before you're gonna be ready to love someone.
Okay.
It just means that now you're aware of areas that you wanna be working on. When you do decide to pursue another relationship, it's something that you can talk about with your
Yeah.
partner and say, one of the things that I know I struggle with is that I shame myself for not being able to do everything
Yeah.
that I know I'm capable of.
Yeah.
And then that's an opportunity for your partner to support you in that and
Yeah.
be able to help you work through that. It's not their responsibility to resolve it for you or to make sure that you heal from that. Just means that your partner now is aware of something that you're working on
Yeah.
and they can ask how they can support you in that.
Yeah.
It makes you a more informed partner because you now know the blind spots in your self-love. You know you love yourself and you know that you give yourself a hard time
Yeah.
when you're not meeting your expectations about the stuff around the house.
Because I recognize, like, everyone needs to give themselves grace. I do that for a lot of things, but I have a hard time doing that for other things. And knowing that I'm not giving myself grace for tasks that I'm capable of and refuse to do is something that I would give other people grace for. So why am I not giving myself this patience? And even explaining it to another person, like, even let's pretend like I had another roommate and I said, "Hey, this is my house. This is something that I'm working on." I can easily say it in a way that's understandable and something that other people would say, "Okay, I'll be patient with you with that." But until I was able to articulate it with you on the phone, I really didn't understand how this had been, like, a huge burden for me that I had not uncovered.
Well, and I will give you a lot of credit because when we talk, you allow me to really challenge you on things.
Yeah.
Like, I would not say that to most people,
Okay.
but when we have conversations and you're like, "No, I'm just gonna rip up my deck this weekend." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Can I challenge you on something?" You say, "Yes." Then I say, "Do you really wanna rip up the deck, or are you avoiding dealing with the emotions of your recent breakup?"
Right.
And you walked me through it, and it became clear that you actually really did just wanna rip up your deck.
Mm.
But what we uncovered instead was that you didn't realize you were allowed to hire people to help you because you
Mhm.
felt guilty of doing that.
Mhm.
So
Well,
we dug into that and you allowed me to do that. I think that that takes a lot of open-mindedness. A lot of people are afraid of what's inside of themselves, and you and I are both this way. We both want to uncover whatever's inside of us and be the best versions of ourselves that we
mhm.
can be. So I appreciate that, and I think that shows strength.
It's hard, and it was hard to uncover because it's when you live with, let's just call them idiosyncrasies, the way you phrased it when you asked me, like, if all of these things that you felt burdened by were vanished, let's pretend they didn't exist or they were just solved immediately. How do you wanna spend your time? What do you feel is right for you? And answering that question is so much harder and is a much bigger question than me thinking, "How am I gonna coordinate going to Home Depot and Goodwill?" Which is what is the way that I'm spending my active thoughts, but it's really, if I didn't have these things to be thinking about what's deeply important to me, that's the question I should be asking myself, and that's so much harder.
It can be really scary to not have things to do. Like, when your to-do list goes away and you suddenly have all the time in the world to do whatever you want, it can feel like an identity problem.
Yes.
It can
Yes.
feel like all of a sudden you don't know who you are or what to do because the things that were on your list were such a big part of your brain every day. Every day you're spending so much time thinking about how to accomplish these tasks. And whether it's a distraction from other things or just easier to go through tasks than to face your feelings or face opportunity, face empty time and make decisions about how to spend it. It's a lot easier to just go down a to-do list and say, "Oh, I have a free hour. I'm going to spend it doing these things that I know have to be done."
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to do that than to say, "I have a free hour. Huh, what do I want to do if I can do anything?"
If I can do anything.
It might feel scary at first,
Yeah.
but I've been getting more comfortable with this. And I will say, as you know, I have this problem too. This problem of feeling guilt for things that I don't need to feel guilty over. And I really struggled with hiring help for a while. And I was trying to do everything myself, even the things that I really didn't need to do. And I still struggle with this. And it's not the biggest thing that I struggle with out of all the things that I'm working on. I think the one that most often used to come to mind when I was at my house was that my house is messy.
Okay.
And every time you would come over, I would say like, "Sorry for the mess."
Whatever.
I just instinctually learned to do that, and am sometimes still ashamed of myself when I'm messy. Even if nobody's there, I'm sometimes ashamed of myself for being messy, and I'm working on it because I know that how messy I am does not define my worth. I
No.
am still worthy of being loved, even if I'm a mess. Even if my stuff is everywhere, I'm still just as worthy of being loved as I would be if my house was pristine.
Well, and here's a question. If we spend our time pretending that a to-do list gives us purpose, when you remove the to-do list, you still need to identify what you want your purpose to be. The to-do list being there or not isn't solving your purpose question.
It's a scapegoat.
Yeah, it's just a veneer. And that's what matters more. And we are conditioned to believe that the to-do list is our purpose and that being on this rat race on a hamster wheel is our purpose. And it's not. Our purpose, what is true to ourselves, is what we should be focusing on and leaning into more. And it's sometimes counterculture. Like when you see people doing what they really want to be doing, it's often kind of makes you uncomfortable because you're like, oh, this person is being so true to themselves. They're doing exactly what they want, but they're not doing what society wants them to do. Or they don't have a desk job that you think that they should have.
I
Like,
don't have that same reaction to people.
I,
I am
I think,
not
no,
uncomfortable
I
by
think
it.
in the universe, no, not you. I'm saying like the proverbial you. I think a lot of people,
I know you didn't mean me, but
no,
I'm saying I disagree with this
I think
generalization. I don't have that reaction because I'm envious of it because I want to give myself more permission to pursue what matters to me, and I have been doing that. But I'm inspired by people who are not following the norm.
I think that I am too, but I think that there's a resistance to it because there really still is a pull to like be like everyone else, do what everyone else is doing, like conform. The pressure to conform is always around us. I really think, especially if we live in cities and if we live and we're connected to the world, that there's this flow of conformity and to do what's really right for you or to be on your own journey is personal, but it's isolating. And even though it's exactly what you want, it can be other people can push back on it. And I think that's in some ways, maybe that's what I've kind of gotten sucked into a little bit is I want to feel like my own person, but I've gotten sucked into this conformity that I don't want anymore.
Is it conformity or is it approval?
I've never really sought approval. So I would say it's no, for me, it's just been complacency. It's not even like I'm doing things to be liked by other people or I'm doing things to be approved by other people. It's just that I'm not paddling upstream anymore. I'm just going with the flow and the flow is not what I'm meant for.
The flow is not what you're meant for. What do you mean by that?
Like I am just going along with what's unfolding in my life, but I'm not taking charge and doing what I really want to be doing. I'm just a passenger.
Okay. So I think this is a good segue into your silent retreat.
Okay.
Because in your quest for feeling your feelings, understanding yourself more deeply, uncovering things that you want to work on, and maybe deciding not to be a passenger, you're now about to go participate in a silent retreat. So talk to us about how that ties into all this.
I have had 2 friends do a 10-day silent meditation before. It's called Vipassana. That's the name for doing a 10-day silent meditation. And it initially intrigued me. And it is attending this meditation center. You wake up at 4:30 in the morning. You eat breakfast and then you sit and meditate all day long. And
Why do they wake up at 4:30?
that's the routine.
That's just part of it.
It's just part of it.
Okay.
You wake up early, you eat breakfast, and you meditate, and you don't speak for 10 days.
Do you eat other meals?
There is a small dinner, I believe, but I don't know the details on the feedings.
That's
And
my first question is, what
what
about
about
the
dinner?
food?
I know.
Okay.
And the point is just feel your body. You are completely undistracted by anything else. It's just you and your sensations for 10 full days and no talking. And I don't know when I signed up to be on this wait list. I don't know if it was before or after I initiated the breakup, but this is something that has been something that I've been curious about for a long time. But now that I'm on this real active quest for feeling my feelings, I signed up for a wait list. And I received an email saying that I was accepted into the program like 2 days ago, and it's next Wednesday. So,
And you broke up with Nick only
he moved out a couple days ago.
oh my God.
So, diving into the deep end of feeling my feelings fast because I know that I need to enter this experience with an open mind. I'm not going to say I'm going to try to become an expert on feeling my feelings after this 10 days. I don't want to put pressure on myself for that. I am going to see what it feels like to sit for this amount of time. And even the idea of like physically sitting and getting comfortable sitting sounds hard. That's one of the other challenges. Is like to get comfortable. And even I think part of this is accepting discomfort. Like you can withstand so much more than you believe. And this is my chance to try that out. And I'm really excited. And I'm not even intimidated. I think it's going to be great.
How are you planning to make sure that you're feeling your feelings instead of thinking your thoughts?
They're literally the only thing that meditation tells you to do is to focus on your breathing. So
Mhm.
all I'm going to try to do is inhale and exhale and think about that. And your thoughts are going to swirl around. I will let them swirl away, but I'm just going to still try to focus on what my breath feels like. And in these mobility classes that I take, the instructor gives us this directive to feel the air entering your nose. Think about the way the air feels as it's entering your face and try to feel it as it enters your body. Like, how far can you recognize sensation into your body from this breath? And for me, it's 1 centimeter into my nostril or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, I don't feel any breath anymore. Like, I know it's there, but I don't notice it. I mean, I don't know much about deep sensory evolvement, but I think you could probably like literally feel oxygen permeating your veins. Like, people have deep capacities with this stuff. You know what would be so funny? I know that you don't have, when you have new guests, you don't have an initial question. Like, when I listen to Normal Gossip and she has
Well,
guests,
I haven't had new guests.
no, I know, but her first question is, what's your relationship to gossip? You could come
Oh.
up with a Becca, a Golden Girl question, and one of them could be literally, how far do you feel the air when you
That's
breathe it in?
not the question
I know,
that I'm
but
gonna
like,
ask
that's,
people.
sure, why not?
Because I don't
Sure.
care what people have to say about that, but I would ask other questions.
That's fair, but you can pick like the one that you think
I
is
might.
relevant.
Yeah, maybe I
because-
would. It would be something very vulnerable.
Oh God!
Like, when
but
was
what
the
if people
last time
just?
you cried?
But people are gonna give you such a lame answer. Oh, I watched Charlotte's Web. That was the first movie I ever cried in.
Or, like, when was the last time you were scared, and what was it of? I would ask that. Anyway, okay, yeah,
Okay.
when I inhale, like, if I'm really thinking about my breath through my nose, I can feel it move down, like, the back of my throat, kind of, and then I can feel my lungs filling up, and I've spent a lot of time practicing my breath and trying to channel it into different parts of my body.
Does it work?
Like, I can breathe into my back because your back can expand that way. And
But
I can breathe, like, you
Yeah.
can,
but when
but
I do that, I just feel like I'm expanding my lungs. I don't feel like the actual breath is going into my back.
I can feel the breath going into my lungs.
Okay. I believe you.
Yeah.
I don't feel it very far. So that's that's the first thing I'm gonna focus on is the sensation that my breath brings to my nose and then to my nasal cavity and then to my lungs.
Okay. So when you embark on this silent retreat, I want to bring this back to the breakup again because I want to spend a little bit more time on that to help give people permission to explore their relationship with their relationship. I want people to have permission to think about what their relationship is doing for themselves, if their relationship is helping them be a better person, if they feel complacent and if that's okay with them, maybe that's what they want. Because I don't think people choose complacency just for the sake of being complacent. I think you choose it because maybe it's making a lot of other things in your life easier. Maybe the unraveling of a relationship would be too much of a burden that it makes sense to just stay. And I get that that's why some people would do that. I'm not that person. But I want to ask you as you embark on this silent retreat, is there a connection between the ending of your relationship and this silent retreat?
My instinct is to say no. My goal for this is to just enhance my ability to feel, relationship or not. I want to feel my body.
Okay. And if you had still been in the relationship with Nick, do you think that you would have a different experience at the retreat?
I think I still would have wanted to do it. I think I still would have embarked on this, maybe not as rapidly, but I can't really say one way or another. But even if I was still in a relationship, I would want to enter it for the same reason, which is to feel more feelings.
Okay. And then my final question, do you have guidance or advice or comments for anyone who might be considering ending a 6-year relationship? Because I know he just moved out, but you guys broke up
A month ago.
a month ago.
I would say if you, in the back of your mind, not even in the front of your mind, if you feel concern in the back of your mind and it's lingering there and you don't spend more time digging deep into it, it's there for a reason. And it's something that maybe you should think about why. I don't want to tell people to think because I'm trying to tell people to feel.
No, you're not.
Well, I want people to
Are
feel.
you trying to is that your message? Because my understanding is that you're trying to explore feelings for yourself, but I don't think you're instructing other people to do that, right?
Well, I'm trying to instruct people to, these decisions have to come from a feeling and not from a thought. That's what I'm trying to portray.
Okay, well, if that's the case, though,
No, I guess I would say this then. It's when I wake up in the middle of the night and I have these midnight thoughts, I want to validate them. And if other people have those midnight thoughts, you should validate them. You should accept them for when they're coming at that time.
yeah, I think it's important for everybody to be listening to the signs that their body or their mind is giving them, whether it's noticing that you're more tense around someone, whether it's honoring the thoughts that you have when you wake up in the night, whatever way your body is trying to communicate with you or your intuition is trying to share information with you. It might be different for everybody, but not pushing them away and listening
Yeah.
is probably very helpful.
Yeah.
There was something else that I thought of. Do you remember that after we walked home and you decided you were going to break up with him? Do you remember the next day you texted me and you were like, maybe not?
I think me telling that to you is because my instinct at that time was still not to rock the boat, or was still, even though I had these really strong feelings that at the moment were undeniable, maybe I can still overcome this.
So, this is what I want to be talking about. This is the message people need to hear. Even though you knew you were not happy in your relationship and you had decided the day before that you did have to end it, the next day you were back in this place where you were convincing yourself that you could just muscle through it and be somewhat okay and that would be worth staying. Walk me through that. Because that, I think, is very common. I think a lot of people will find themselves in this place where they consider ending their relationship. They know it's not working, and then they just convince themselves that it's not a big deal, and they stay.
I think this still comes from, I want to talk about the waking up in the middle of the night. I think people who have insomnia or have insomnia-related hamster wheel brain are just constantly trying to tell themselves to go to sleep. But you should just, for fun, Think about what your brain is telling you in those moments, because that really has clout. And I think that it's only when I'm awake and when I'm really in my, like, cerebral mode that I start to question those things. And it's when you're in your most uninhibited that's when they're talking to you. And I think it's my nature to listen to myself when I'm listening to my cerebral thoughts. That's just what I'm really accustomed to. Even though what my body was telling me was, in your most free form, you should listen to your feelings. It's just not my instinct, and it's harder.
Your body was telling you end the relationship.
But my brain was saying, but maybe I don't have to.
Why?
Because that's the harder path. And it's the disruptive path. And it's the path of really finding out who I am, which is hard. People don't want to know what's deep uncovered. I think it's so easy to just say who I am with this person is good enough for me. But I'm not saying that anymore. I want to know who I am by myself. I want to know who I am, not who I am as a part of a relationship. And I don't think other people need to make those excuses either. I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you for your vulnerability. Not a lot of people would be willing to get on a podcast and talk about all of this. So,
And I think that that's a shame. I think that these are things that should be discussed.
me too. I feel really strongly that these conversations should not be had in private. But to your point, when we started, not everyone has a friend that they can have these conversations with. And I feel really honored that you trust me with so much of your life and that you're willing to hear my perspective on it. I feel honored to be a part of your life and to be along for your journey too. It's very meaningful for me to be your friend.
I'm really appreciate that we have the ability with each other. Like when you say, I know that my fairy tale love story is possible. And
I don't say it's fairy tale love story, but
you know what I mean.
Go on.
I am glad I can say, wow, I don't see that for myself. Or wow, I've never thought that was possible for me. Like even just, amicable disagreement is not easily achieved. Amicable disagreement is really challenging. But I think because we have that rapport, I can amicably disagree with you and it's no big deal. And that's really, really, really important.
I think maybe the reason that is, I'm trying to think of why that is, because I agree with you. We disagree
all the time
on plenty of stuff. And it's not fundamental values or anything like that. It's just we each have a very different experience of life. We each experience life very differently.
Mm-hmm.
And you've always made me feel very seen for my experience, even though it's been so clearly different from yours. And so I have the desire to do the same for you. And I know that you've chosen to seek a deeper understanding of yourself. And so I'm along for that journey with you, even though my own understanding of myself is very different than yours will be. But I know that you have a good heart and I care about you and I want you to be happy. So it feels easy for me to disagree when I disagree. Because I also know that you're not going to love me any less.
No.
And you've made it really clear that you unconditionally love me.
I think that's true. And I think the fact that our perspectives are so different is what makes it easy. Because maybe if we were really similar, it would almost make it harder.
Yeah, it might be more intimidating to say something that isn't also in agreement.
Yeah.
I could see that. I don't know how it happened, but I'm glad it did.
Me too.
Thank you for being exactly you.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this time to share.
Yeah. I know personally people in my life who are also going through breakups and having a really hard time with it. I'm fascinated by relationships. I think relationships are so meaningful. I think connection is one of the most important parts about life. And in a world where we are now so disconnected from each other, and a world where there's so much access to information, I want to make sure that the information and the content that I'm creating right now with this podcast, I want to be sharing moments of connection and realizations that people are having within themselves because I think it's so common and this is a very relatable thing for people to go through or to be wrestling with. I want to give people permission to explore their relationship with themselves and with other people and ask themselves tough questions about the things that they're judging themselves for or the way that they were raised, the narratives that they were raised with, and really just approaching all of it with curiosity and compassion and choosing how they want to be moving forward.
Yeah. Curiosity and compassion is really the name of the game.
Hmm. Yeah. That concludes today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked this episode, make sure you like, subscribe, follow along, send it to a friend, send me a message, do whatever it is that you want to do to show your support. And we're so glad to have you here.
Great.
Until next time.